If you're not a patriot of the United States and you're not committed to helping this country and its people in a time of crisis, then please leave now. And if you think that you're fully prepared to protect your family from the disaster that is set to strike the U.S. at any moment, then please click away from this page and continue to live out your remaining days in a state of blind ignorance. Because the cold, hard truth is this: your family is not as safe as you think. In fact, your loved ones are in imminent danger, and that's no exaggeration at all. I haven't been looking forward to giving you this message today. I honestly wish that I didn't have to sit here and create this video. And I certainly wish that you didn't have to watch it, but you do. And if you choose to click away from this page and refuse to listen to what I'm about to tell you, then you are taking a monumental risk with your family's safety and potentially their lives. I'm John Hartman, a retired member of the United States Armed Forces and a certified disaster and survival expert. I've created this presentation because I have something incredibly important to say to you, and I'm saying it for the sake of you and your family's safety. In all honesty, you probably won't like hearing what I've got to say to you today. In fact, the information I'm about to share may shock you, but it's absolutely imperative that you hear me out and listen to what I'm about to say before it's too late. Now, I'm no soothsayer, but I know for a fact that the situation in the United States right now is critical, and things are set to get a lot worse. If the U.S. were a man in a hospital, it would be lying there on a life support machine just waiting to flatline. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my country. In fact, the years I spent fighting for my country spanned 3 different decades. But that doesn't mean I'm blind to its problems. As you read this, the United States is on the brink of economic and social disaster. And when that disaster strikes, your family could be in serious danger. Because believe me, when this country does finally flatline, you won't have any warning at all. So it's absolutely vital that you're prepared for the worst. Now, if you've done nothing to prepare for what's about to come and haven't set in motion a plan to protect your family, then it's my duty to make sure that you start preparing yourself right now. And if you have thought about creating a survival plan to protect you and your family from this imminent disaster, and have based that plan on what the U.S. government has told you, then you're in an even worse situation. Because trust me when I say, the government's advice will not help you one bit. And believing that you're fully prepared when you're anything but gives you a false sense of security, which is potentially more dangerous than not doing anything at all. And I don't want that to happen to you. So if you're someone who will do anything and everything to protect your family, then stick around, because this message is for you. Okay, so what kind of a disaster am I talking about here? Well, in short, I'm talking about the biggest disaster ever to hit the United States. A crisis on a truly epic scale that will bring America to its knees. And this crisis is predicted to hit this year. So I urge you, no, I implore you to carry on watching, because in just a few moments, I'm going to arm you with the priceless information you need to make absolutely sure that your family makes it through the crisis in one piece. That's right, I'm going to hand you a proven blueprint that will ensure the safety of you and your loved ones while absolute chaos ensues around you. Okay, so you probably know that the U.S. is in a desperate financial state right now. But what you probably don't know is just how close we are to complete collapse, or how catastrophic the consequences will be for the American people when our entire financial system starts crashing down. In fact, our most senior economists are in agreement that America is facing nothing less than a complete and total financial apocalypse within the next 12 months. According to Peter Schiff, the U.S. businessman and economist who was mercilessly mocked and ridiculed for predicting that an economic collapse was about to hit the world back in 2007, America is set for a financial disaster of even greater proportions in 2014. He was right then, and I'd bet a lot of money that he's right now. And that's because this time, you don't have to be an economist to see that the writing is on the wall. After decades of borrowing, America has finally sunk into an unsustainable and inescapable level of debt. As a matter of fact, this country is now struggling to even afford to pay the interest on those debts, let alone the actual debts themselves. And that's because the national debt is nothing like the reported figure of 18 trillion. It's actually closer to 60 trillion and may, in fact, be even higher. The really shocking truth is that the United States now owes more dollars than actually exists in the entire world. And the result of all this is that all the countries we're in debt to will be forced to abandon the dollar as the currency standard because they have no other choice. And the consequences of this? The value of the dollar will nosedive instantly. and the cost of everything in the U.S. will skyrocket to unaffordable levels. Gas prices will soar out of control. Food will be emptied from the shelves as desperate Americans flock to their local grocery stores in panic to buy anything and everything they can get their hands on. Basic foodstuffs like bread, milk, and baby formula will disappear in a flash, and any food that's left will simply be too expensive to buy. And as gas prices continue to rise, grocery stores simply won't be able to afford to run their delivery trucks. And then what happens? Your local grocery store will not be restocked. And to make matters worse, the 50 million Americans who right now are surviving on government food stamps will suddenly be without food. The government will no longer have the resources to feed them, resulting in food rationing right across the country. Full-scale riots and violence will break out as desperate and starving Americans compete for what food there is. Looting will take place and homes will be invaded in search of food and essential supplies. And if you're sitting there right now thinking, oh, come on, this is America, this won't happen to us, then you need to get your head out of your ass, because this is exactly what happens to nations all over the world when economic disaster strikes. And just because we're America doesn't make us immune to normal human behavior. During my military career, I've been stationed in various parts of the world, West Africa, the Gulf, and Eastern Europe, to name just a few, and I've seen this happen over and over again. Whether the trigger point is economic collapse, war, or a natural disaster like a hurricane, flood, or tornado, the vast majority of human beings are all the same. The unprepared will panic and think only of themselves and their closest family. They will desperately try to get their hands on essential supplies like food, water, and shelter. Previously civilized, law-abiding Americans will turn on one another. They will steal and loot in order to get what they need. And if they can't do that, their desperation will turn to violence. And believe me, you don't want to be there when that happens. So answer me this. Do you want to be one of the unprepared when chaos and violence strikes all around you? Do you want to be standing out in the open with your family unprotected and vulnerable? Will you have the food, water, shelter, and supplies you need when pandemonium inevitably breaks out in your town or city? Will you be able to give your family the protection and security they need to survive when desperate and starving mobs of people invade your home scavenging for supplies? Again, you might think that I'm exaggerating here. You might think that I'm scaremongering. But get this. The U.S. government has secretly been preparing for this exact scenario for the past 2 years. Yes, that's right. The U.S. government already knows that all of this is about to happen to our nation. They just don't know yet exactly when it will begin. They know that complete and total financial ruin is getting closer by the day, along with the collapse of civilized society as we know it. They know that the American economy is like a stricken boxer taking punch after punch after punch. It's already been knocked down multiple times, and it can't take any more of a beating. And the next time it happens, it's not getting back up. This is inevitable. It will happen, and the government knows it. And how do I know this? Because President Obama recently signed Executive Order 16303, which gives an unprecedented level of authority to the President and the federal government to take over all the fundamental parts of our economy and society in the name of national security. The executive order provides the President with unprecedented new powers, such as seizing property, energy supplies, including oil and natural gas, as well as food and health resources. They can even implement the rationing of food, water, gasoline, and drugs, and most shockingly, impose martial law on U.S. citizens in times of national emergency. It essentially